Hi, I'm Shannon Kelly, and I am a narcissistic recovery and domestic violence coach. I work with a lot of women who have been or would like to leave a situation that no longer feels safe, that is supporting their highest good, and often. I would say most women who are in these situations are in cycles of it, and so they need someone to help support them, recovering mentally in their bodies, spiritually, and emotionally from these relationships that caused a great deal of havoc in their lives. So today I'm going to do a very quick pass the domestic violence wheel. So I was given the domestic violence wheel, and it was eye-opening for me. Even someone like myself who has studied domestic violence in many different ways in very different countries and traditions. And the wheel itself was just eye-opening because it's very clear, and it says what is domestic violence and what isn't. So when people think of domestic violence, they often think that it's physical, and I'll say that definitely does happen, but a lot of times it's these other things in which pin people in domestic violence situations. I'll give you just a little heads up if you don't know much about domestic violence. It typically takes someone 7 times before they actually fully leave a domestic violence situation. I have met people who were in domestic violence for 3 years. I have met people that have been in domestic violence for 10 years, and I've met people who've been in it for 30 years. Either way, I always tell people when they leave, they did a very good job of getting out quickly because there are many, many hooks that keep people tied into that, and the wheel itself will help you identify some of those hooks that keep people very fear-based and stuck in these situations. So I will, if you go to Shannon the Coach on Facebook, I will pin this picture of the domestic violence wheel so that you can take a look at it. It's likely that you know someone who's in domestic violence and they may not know that they are or believe that they are, and that's pretty normal. You may have gone through this yourself, either in childhood or in your adulthood, or maybe likely in both. It runs in patterns. Just be aware. Probably the best thing to do is not try to help anybody out of a domestic violence situation. Strangely enough, that is not the path to do. It has to be the choice of the person who's in it to decide that they want something different, and that can be very difficult, and we'll talk about that some other time. Okay, so the first part of the wheel I'm going to talk about is using coercion or threats. So when this happens, they may threaten to hurt them or threaten to do something to themselves. I've had several clients whose partners said that they would commit suicide if the relationship ended. That's a huge red flag of domestic violence. They may try to report her as being the abuser to children or of the partner themselves in order to not be the one who was reported. That's happened. Make her do a legal thing. So a lot of times in domestic violence, there may be addiction. They may be forced to do things that they know is wrong or keep secrets about the addiction that keeps the person pretty looped. As we go through the wheel, you'll understand a little bit better. The next one is using intimidation. It's perfect because a lot of times there is fears that the person is going to hurt them or that they're not going to live if they leave. And these things can either be said directly or it can be done with a lot of body language, just by looks and gestures and actions, smashing things, abusing pets or hurting pets, displaying weapons or speaking about weapons. The biggest thing in domestic violence that I see, especially people who are in huge denial that it exists, is using emotional abuse. putting her down, making her feel bad about herself, calling her names, having her think she's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating her, making her feel guilty. So it can be anything. It could be maybe when you go to barbecues, he tells the people at the party, yeah, she does all these terrible things to me. And so going around and having her be in a situation where she looks like she's the bad guy in front of a lot of people who are supposed to be support networks. And that kind of goes on to the next part of the wheel, which is using isolation. So isolation is really interesting because it can be very subtle. It can be encouraging you not to go out with friends anymore. It can be maybe don't go out with friends who are supportive, so they may be trying to push you towards friends that are going to have you make lower choices for yourself. It could be as controlling as putting an app on your phone and keeping tabs on you, what you're doing, who you're doing it with. One of the power dynamics that happens is using jealousy to keep a hold on someone and justify their actions. So, let's see. The next one is minimizing, denying, and blaming, making light of abuse, not taking her concerns seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen, it's always a shifting of responsibility from the abuser to the victim, making them feel like they are the ones who deserve it or it's their fault that it's happening, and saying that she caused it. It's a huge one, and it is part of the emotional abuse structure as well. If you have children, or whether they're the children of the partners or not, it usually doesn't matter. Making you feel guilty about the children, using the children to send messages, sometimes threatening messages, may interfere with custody, may use children like I've seen it before where the abuser reports abuse from the victim, and so that it looks like the victim is one harming the child, and it's really the person with the pattern of domestic violence setting themselves up so that they can be seen as the good guy when they're clearly not. And it leads on to the next one on the wheel, which is using male privilege, treating her as less than, always having the power dynamic in the situation, making all of the big decisions maybe within the household, acting like the master of the castle, being the one who defines the roles for both men and women in the household. So that's using male privilege. The next one is a huge hook for a lot of people that I work with, which is economic abuse. So preventing her from getting a job. So maybe she stayed home with the children, but now he won't let her go back to work because if she has that power, she might be able to leave, and then what would he do? Making her ask for money is a huge one, or telling her that she won't be able to survive without him. That is a really huge one, and one that I love to challenge and heal when I'm working with a client, so it's a big one that comes up a lot. Not allowing her to have access to family income is another one, and that is the power and control wheel in a jiffy. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different scenarios that could say what those are in a domestic violence situation. One of the things that I really want to push really hard and make sure that everybody knows is domestic violence isn't about a physical only a physical thing. So someone can be in a domestic violence situation, even though they may not think that they are. Of course, their abuser is convincing them that they're not, that they're the ones that have the issue. And so this is why it can take anywhere from 3 to 30 years to get out of it. Some people never get out of these situations. But when I find someone and they want to get out, I love to be able to show them a path to get out. And then what I really love to do is have people who have been out of the situation for a really long time, but they don't believe healing is possible, and teach them that healing is possible. And taking ownership and power back in life is a beautiful thing. And I wanted to share the wheel with you today. Again, my name is Shannon Kelly. You can find me at shannonthecoach.com. You can find me on Facebook at Shannon the Coach on Facebook as well. And I will post the Power and Control wheel so that you can take a look at it and share it with people. Just know if you share it with someone who it seems obvious to you in a domestic violence situation, it may take a very long time before they leave. So it's good to have some detachment and so that you don't get tied into the pattern that they're stuck in. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Bye.